11th hour of the 11th month.
The 11th day.
Of the 11th, day. And that was, what happened that day? Do you know?
The final peace treaty was signed for the end of World War I.
Right.
Marking one of the biggest sacrifices our nation had made up to that time.
Right, yeah. It was really a time when the United States military kind of came of age, because before World War I they had like about 10,000 people. And it got increased in World War I. And I am here today with Jim Losinski, and we're in what was the old Our Lady of Perpetual Help
Church, yes.
Yep.
And it's been converted to the Arcadia Historical Society or the Wannick Art Center.
Yeah. And
we have a lot of different items on display, but right now, in honor of Veterans Day, we're going to touch on a few veterans items that we have here in the museum and talk about a few people from the county.
And tell me what you're wearing around your neck.
Well, it isn't a necktie. In service, everyone's issued a set of dog tags. One is usually on your around your neck, and one is on your boot. In case the parts got separated, they could kind of identify what was left.
Okay.
The other one, I said, well, sometimes some people that represent if they're religious, some little help didn't hurt sometimes.
Right.
Like I said, there's no atheists in the foxhole.
Right, that's right.
And then I said, if you walk point on a patrol, you got to have a point round. So you're a point man for a while if you were on patrol. I was a Vietnam veteran, carried machine gun, and different times, different day.
Were you a Marine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What do they say about Marines?
They say a lot of things, but some of them you can't repeat.
All right, we're going to walk around here and we're going to talk about some of the displays here. Do you want to start right here?
Okay, we've picked out a few pictures here of local veterans. Most of these are from Arcadia, it's the Arcadia Museum. But I says, this particular picture here is Vilas Hansen. Vilas was on the city council and a real active member of the committee. He's passed away already. And I says, Vilas enlisted in service when he was 14 and a half years old.
Oh my gosh, and they accepted him?
Yes, he snuck in there. And he was enlisted with a couple other men. There was two other fellers that went with him. And I don't want to put my glasses on to read this, but I mean...
I know what you mean. I have to run out in the car and get mine.
One I think was Eversole and...
Are his two buddies?
I'm not even sure. I mean, and we can't ask Vilas. We can maybe ask Joan, but we can't ask Vilas. Well, anyhow, I said he did not go in alone, but I said he was right before the start of Korea, and he was on Johnson Island. And Vilas has been active. He was on city council for many years, I says, and real active member of the American Legion. I says, too bad. I said, I mean, all the older veterans are gone.
And this guy was Korea veteran, right?
He was just before the Korean era, so he's a Korean era veteran.
I just can't imagine that they accepted him when he was 14.
Vilas also started an underage veterans group.
Oh.
And he was one of the founding officers of that group. And there was a number of people that enlisted when they were, before the age of 18.
Yeah.
I enlisted when I was 17.
Okay, well, you snuck in too then, huh?
Harlan Stone over here was a teacher here in Arcadia. And Harlan, now I says, is retired and he lives up north. But I says, Harlan flew helicopter and he did supplies and hauled back wounded.
He's Vietnam.
He's another Vietnam veteran.
Okay.
I says, Harlan also, like I says, really active in youth sports, encouraging children, to be more active in the community. I says, outstanding citizen.
But he was a pilot on a Huey?
No, I think he was an A gunner.
Oh, okay.
He ran the machine gun out the side and helped pull guys on and shove stuff off. And he did a couple tours, I said, which caused some mental issues for him. But I says...
But he's still here?
He's still here.
He's up north?
Yes.
And here we have...
And this is George Crummels.
Okay.
We also happen to have a chair from his father. His father was a dentist, and ended up George was a dentist, but in Fountain City. But he was a POW during the Second World War.
Really?
Yes.
For a long time?
A little over a year, if I'm mistaken. But I said he ended up in Fountain City, I says, and another, like I said, patriotism was so strong in our country, and nowadays patriotism is really weak. We don't teach civics in school no more. I says they have no idea what it is. And I said, that's personal opinion, but I says, yes, patriotism is not what it should be in our country.
And he was a truck driver?
Airplane pilot.
Oh, an airplane pilot.
Yes.
Okay.
It just happens to be, I guess, there when they took a picture. And he also kept a lot of personal notes and diaries, you know. I'm not sure. I suspect his parents would have had those, and what happened to him, I'm not sure.
Huh.
But I said, we collected pictures, like I said, Ashley collected these pictures, I said, probably 10, 12 years ago, something like that. And they used them a lot of times for Ashley the Arts. Now they've kind of upgraded to a bigger format.
And then this gentleman
On this side is Ray Walters. Ray's still with us. Ray's a little bit after Korea. He was stationed in Germany, operated tank and stuff.
Yeah.
Ray owns the home right across the street from the Quick Trip.
Okay.
Up here at the corner, I says, and active with the Legion here, I says, and really a good community member. I said, you can't say enough. I said, it just appears maybe that a lot of veterans have stepped forward to evolve into really outstanding citizens for every community. Yeah. It's not just in Arcadia. I said the pictures we have here are mostly locals because it's a local museum.
It's a really nice idea, and this is a great picture of this guy, isn't it? He's just something about it.
Well, he's still good looking, you know.
I'm saying he's not. And then over here is Albert Wojcik.
This is Albert Wojcik. I said, a lot of people don't recognize Albert.
Sure.
I said he never had a mustache as long as I knew him. But I said, he's a Korean War veteran. I said, his brother was a World War II veteran. But I said, Albert's daughter was also Miss Wisconsin in 1977.
Right, that's right.
He was my neighbor, lived right below the hill. Eldest passed away within the last year or so. And I says, another, like you says, outstanding citizen. He'd come, when we had military funerals, El was more than willing to take off the farm and come out, and help to work at funerals and different events and fundraisers. His wife, Luann, same way, really active in the community. But I says, we all get old.
And he was in the Red Arrow Division.
Yes.
Okay. Well, and this was
Korea.
Korea. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's a war I think a lot of people don't know anything about either.
Well, Korea was so close to World War II.
Yeah.
One war barely quit, and they always call Korea the Forgotten War.
Right.
And it was like within 5 years, we were into Korea. The last W2 we practically had die in our area here was Bud Stevens, Earl Stevens down there. And Earl was right at the end of World War II, a draftee, and then he was put out, and then they called him up for Korea. So Earl had to send.
Yeah, some of them got in.
He got
wars,
double beat there.
Yeah,
that's his short end of the stick twice.
And here's this famous poster of Uncle Sam.
I think that was a World War I recruiting thing. I said maybe we need more of those now. I said, I don't know. I said, like I said, patriotism has gotten fairly weak. I said, but Veterans Day. I says we used to shut down the town. Would shut down for Memorial Day.
Right.
Now I says, it's just another day of the week, And I says, they have one day to remember the veterans and at the time. It just
That's
seems...
kind of sad, isn't it? And
it
now,
is. It's more than sad.
Look up there. We have the American Legion Auxiliary, which the auxiliaries started after World War I believe.
Yes, I believe it did. And I says, I do not know a lot of ladies that are still left from the auxiliary. I said, most of those, I says, have already kind of passed on. And the younger generation, I says, as you and I grew up, Nancy, we knew a lot of people in service. Everybody kind of went to service.
Yeah,
now
my parents were both in the Army Air Force.
It's awful hard to name someone that is in service nowadays because the younger generation, very few go.
Yeah.
So I says, a lot of these auxiliary members, they were mothers and sisters of people who were in service at the time.
So this is the unit of the Martin Erickson, and this is Martin Erickson right here. And Martin is actually buried out at Fogarty's Church, and he has the distinction of being the first man from our county to be killed in World War I, which was not, you wouldn't
not a great distinction, but at least it is a distinction.
And he was killed in the first real battle that the United States was in World War I.
As I said, the local Legion post, like you said, is named partially after him. I said because of the sacrifice he made for our country here.
So it's nice to see that he's been remembered because he was just a young guy. He was a farm boy.
Yeah.
And I think his stepfather had been in the Civil War, and so he had kind of always wanted to be in the service, they said.
You'll find that if you do Memorial Park up here. I said, veterans who were in the Civil War, their grandparents, you know, I should say the grandparents were in the Civil War,
Yeah.
the parents were in a World War I, the sons were in World War II.
Yeah,
The patriotism, it extended.
yeah.
My uncle was in the service, I want to be in the service.
Yep.
And I said, you'll find it, and it's not just Arcadia. Every community around, has veterans that have stepped forward, and the whole families will serve. It's just a matter of, 3-4 sons,
Yep.
a lot of times from one family, will be in active service at the same time.
And
Right
this-
now, we're glad we have a volunteer service,
Yeah.
because we are going through kind of troubling times.
Yeah. So next to him, we have another World War I fellow. It was Peter Sura, who was from Independence, and he was a Marine. And you always hear about Belleau Woods, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think he missed Belleau Woods because a few days before that affair, he had gotten shot in the head. But apparently it didn't slow him down too much, because by July he was back in with his buddies in time to get killed on July 19th. And that was down near, I don't say these French words right, Soissons, Vierzey. Yeah. It was very sad, because when I kind of did some informational reading about the battle he was killed in, it was where they were asking the Marines to charge across an open field into a tree-lined area where the Germans were entrenched and had machine guns. And they had 70% casualties that day, the Marines. It was terrible. And he had one other, this is kind of a strange aside too. Peter had a brother, an older brother, who was killed in the Civil War. Can you imagine? Oh, yes, he had a brother who was killed at Cold Harbor, and that was a terrible slaughter in the world, in the Civil War.
Yes, people don't realize, the battles our country has gone through to preserve the freedoms that we have.
Yeah.
The families that have stepped forward, and offered their best.
And then next to him we have...
Morris Tickford.
Okay, that's the other fellow that's...
The post is named after
Yes.
Legion Post, Legion was established here after World War I.
And he was a POW, wasn't he?
Yes, for a while. So I said, it's a shame. We have a list of POWs, I believe, from Trempealeau County. We do not have all of them.
I think
they
I've
might
got
be
some
on this
on
one
your
paper here
Yeah.
someplace.
Yeah.
But we don't have them. I know Walter Becker should be on there. Walter, I know a lot of people knew him from Independence. He used to always say, well, I said it and I'm glad. That was Walter's saying.
Well, what you've got listed here as, these were World War II POWs. Morris Tickford, John Runkle, Marcellus Compa, Edward Felsheim, George Krumholtz, Roland Steenman, Marcus Felsheim, Adlai Young, and Charles Leeson. But you think that's maybe
I don't think it reflects all of them, but
Okay.
veterans' records are sealed. You cannot go up to Whitehall and say, was John Brown, they're a veteran.
Yeah.
These are confidential from the family, or go through special channels to try to find out if someone is a veteran.
Yeah.
Because the information a lot of times is used badly. Somebody will pretend to be someone else.
Sure.
Identity theft nowadays and it always has been, a large problem.
So what kind of things we have in here?
The Chamber and the City of Arcadia and different organizations got together and they started giving awards to different organizations for volunteer community service. And when the VFW post here in Arcadia was active, we were over 20-some years we were VFW post, and finally, just for lack of membership, because you have to be a combat veteran to belong to the VFW, we had to disband. But these are some awards we've got from the city for organizations. We weren't the only ones. Like I said, fire department got some, the EMS got them, Legion got them, So it was from the community, thank yous for stepping forward, and serving the community.
Is that eagle, is that made out of wood?
I'm quite sure it is.
Wow. So that was all carved out? That's amazing.
And we would have to check with our curator here
Yeah.
with Carol, and she would be able to tell you 100% of what that is, because Carol usually organizes this stuff, Carol Birkeland. She organizes this stuff and helps direct the problems we have here to keep things greased and oiled to keep it rolling. I said, she is really a good organizer.
I see here now, I don't know if you can see it or not, there is like a bumper sticker here that says, "The Marines are looking for a few good men." You must have stepped up when you read
Well,
that.
that bumper, yeah, that was the thing that made me go.
Okay, and
This is from the 40 and 8. And I do not know a lot about the 40 and 8.
No,
I think it was named after it was the World War I organization. And it took 40 men or 8 horses in a boxcar.
oh, yeah, that was, now I know what you mean. Yes, that was the boxcar.
They're still active. I'm not 40 and 8.
Yeah.
They're still up there, I think, by Whitehall, Independence, Oliva area, someplace up in there. There's the 40 and 8. You know, but I said, you can't belong to everything.
No, and
Because
and
if you're
this
not
is
doing justice to the
interesting.
place you belong, I said, a poor membership is worse than none, I guess. So, you know.
But the story is that when the American troops got to France and they were being transported to the Meuse Argonne by
Forest,
train, these boxcars had in French stamped on them that it would take 8 horses or 40 men. And lots of times they said that the boxcars hadn't been cleaned out from when the 8 horses were in there. So that was interesting. And then who's the gentleman
Now,
up
the top
here?
here, there's one of Mr. Krummel's.
Okay.
I said, we talked about him earlier.
Uh-huh.
In the back here is Gerald Zimi.
Okay.
Zimi was kind of a character. I says he was a corpsman on Iwo Jima. And there's a photo here. And Zimi's in the man in the back here.
Huh.
And it was for many, many years, they had it mislabeled who he was. And Zimi was wounded 3-4 times. But he was a corpsman, so he treated himself, so he never received the Purple Heart.
Goodness.
But I said, everything here, I said, has been donated by different people in the community.
And these are ration books? From
Yes,
World
these
War
are ration
II?
books. They're in World War II. I says, you and I still remember that. I said, folks would talk about rationing.
Yes, they
you couldn't
do.
buy sugar. You couldn't buy a set of tires on your car.
Right, right.
I knew one feller by Dodge. He blew a tire in his tractor, and he had to put a patch in, and he sewed it with wire to hold that tire together because you couldn't get another tire, and they needed the tractor for thrashing and such. And then Ben got her done. I said, it went for many, many years. Just held it together. They didn't have duct tape back then.
No, that's right.
There is it.
Or what's the other stuff they put in now? A tire slime.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't have that, did they?
They were in rough shape. Here I said the picture of Ralph Haynes. He's one of our colonels. We had Guile Herrick, Ralph Haynes, and Bud Vogel. We're all colonels and all from the Arcadia area. Ralph over here, another, like I said, active man in the community here. He did an interview, I believe, with Ron Warnick one time. There's a picture of Ron.
Yeah.
He interviewed some of these guys for posterity. I think Todd Fetch may have a little bit something to do with that. But anyhow, up in the park, there's an airplane flying, and it's the man in the cockpit is depicted to be Ralph Haynes.
Ah.
So I said that he was a regular guy as far as you talk to him, quiet little humble feller, but stepped forward, I said, served his country proudly, and I said, we are glad to have him as a Legion member. I said, it's a shame that he's been lost, but I said, our World War II men, I think, are just about gone. You and I were talking a little bit earlier, and I says, I can only think of 2. Now, there's probably more left in the county, but we know one, they're both over 100.
Right, we're thinking of Reynolds Tomter up in Pigeon.
Yes,
who I
Reynolds.
think is 105 or 106. And then over in Blair was Leland Chenoweth.
And he's about 103, 104.
Yep,
So I mean, these guys have voted more than once for president. I said, they've been around and they've done the best they can.
So come around here. And what is the honor roll? What is that?
Each one of the parishes here in Arcadia had set up an honor roll during World War II. And they were members of the community who were serving the country at that time during the war. This honor roll is from St. Stan's Parish. If you go up by St. Stan's Church now, up here, our family, in the yard, there's a Blessed Virgin statue, and there's a whole list of honor people from this parish. And the statue did stand outside, but we've moved it now up. It's been moved up on the hill.
And where did you get this flag from?
This POW flag, I said, there's a lot of angles on this. We picked this one up. I got this one when we had the moving wall here in Arcadia. In 2002, we brought in the moving wall. It depicts the soldiers. There's over 1,700 POWs.
It's right here, isn't it?
Yes. The soldiers that did not come back.
Right.
And I said, I and my A gunner, we solicited a postage stamp for the POWs. And he and I raised over 100,000 signatures.
Wow.
Requesting the government to issue a postage stamp in honor of the POWs. And they did. They did pass a postage stamp. But it only was, short-lived like the rest of them. But,
yeah.
But that was it. This book here is a directory for finding, a person on the wall.
On the wall, okay.
Like here, I says, we were lucky. We had the Legion behind us and the Lions Club here in Arcadia. The whole community stepped forward to run the wall. We had it here for a week. And you had to keep it manned 24 hours a day. Yeah. Somebody had to be there, one, to guard the wall, and two, for directions. You find somebody in 58,000 names and go find Uncle George on there, you got to know where to look. So we had community members step forward 4 or 5 an hour to sit there. And some would sit all evening, some would partial day, but they were there and they supported us. When we had to put it up, the guy that brought it, John Devitt, said, I never put a wall up or took one down as fast as I did in Arcadia. He said, there's so many volunteers. He said, you had to just get out of the way because he said, you'd get knocked down. But the community has really been supportive of the veterans groups. When we had the VFW and the Legion yet, they still come around. And it's not just Arcadia. I said, you go to Independence, Whitehall, the people support the veterans. They still remember, I said, the sacrifice that's been made.
Now, up above here on this Life magazine, the guy has on his shoulder, isn't that the patch for the 32nd Division,
it is.
The red arrow?
It is, but I said, I didn't take the paper out to read it. What the picture said, but yes, it is.
Because you wrote down there a little information about the red arrow, and that's the insignia of the 32nd Infantry Division, which was created in World War I in 1917, and it was made up of National Guardsmen, mainly from Wisconsin and Michigan. And the division earned its trademark insignia from its penetration of every German line of vets. Mm-hmm. The red arrow is pretty
They're
incredible.
Real active in Germany, and then they were put into the Philippines. They were in the islands over there. They did a lot of battles. The red arrow achieved a lot of meritorious citations. There was a lot of unit citations given there in the Second World War. So I says, and now again we're calling on the National Guard to come up and defend their country. So I says, it's the old unit, and I said they're still active. The people that support it. I says I'm glad that they stepped forward, and we have to remember this man.
Yeah. So let's see. Here's Jim Losinski.
Oh yeah, I had a picture there too. I guess at one time.
Look at that.
And at one time, see, I even had hair.
And there you are standing in the middle of a river, huh?
Well, there were a lot less booby traps in the river than there was on a trail. So there's the reason you walked in the river.
What years were you over there?
68 through 70.
Okay. Have you ever gone back to Vietnam?
No, they tried to get me once. I'm not going twice. I said.
I only asked because my son and his fiancée went to Vietnam last year for Christmas, and they just said it was a beautiful country. I
went to a thing at UWL. I do a lot of archaeology too, as you know. Yes. And he was there, and when we were up by Quai Son area, there was a plane went down. And this archaeologist, I was stationed in Vietnam, this plane had went down. And then he came there and he dug this plane out. And he said, you could always find them. He said, so when they crashed in the jungle, he said, all the trees are burned, and some farmer would come in and he'd start farming that area. And if you had more children, you made a bigger clearing.
Yeah.
He said, but you could see these patches in the jungle. He said, so there had to be a plane crash here, plane crash there. So he said they were digging there, and he said, you kind of dig it like in stairs, so it don't collapse. And he said, we were digging there, and he said, I was on one side of this large dig, and there's a fella on the other side, Oriental, and he said, they was chopping away, and I could hear this ting, 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 He said, what is he pounding on over there? He went over there and it was a 500-pound bomb, and
Oh my God.
he's trying to grub it out of the ground, you know. So he said, we diverted that and went around it.
Yeah.
But he said, we gathered material. He said, like, if you find 3 left boots, you know, it had to be 3 people.
Yeah.
You know, it was all kind of common sense.
Right.
But he says, we knew which planes kind of went down, where they crashed, who should have been on that plane. And we made an assumption, or he says, gathered facts that we can figure, dog tags, who these pieces were. Then he said, we seal that in an envelope. He said, it goes to Hawaii for identification. And Hawaii does the same thing again. And then they compare their notes with your notes. And if they match, then they notify the family they found the POW.
Wow.
Or the MIA. So it was really an interesting thing to go through. This little picture here, I always got a kick out of. We sometimes in all to get supplies and see this little bent over fellow.
Yeah.
We called him, he was a Chuhoi, they called him. He was an NVA soldier who had given up, and he came and he was with our unit. And he said one time we were over there, or there's ammo stashed over there, or guns over there. You know, so he kind of directed us around a little bit, you know. And we were low on supplies, but we had all this rice because we were in Laos, but we weren't supposed to be there. But anyhow, I said we had found all this rice in these bunkers. And I said, we destroyed it, but we kept some for ourselves. And when we ran out, you got an extra pant leg over here, an extra pouch, like here on pole.
Okay.
And I said, you had this rice in a MRI bag. We give it to him and asked him if he could cook something for us. So he took a helmet and he went and he gathered some garlic and wild onions and stuff, and he threw this in a handful of rice, and he fed 5-6 people, and he had over most of the bag left yet. I mean, it just multiplied. I said, those people were resourceful, but I said, he could really make stuff.
Yeah.
I said, but it was quite a deal that time. I said, there were good times and there were bad times. But
so what is this?
It's a 3.5 rocket launcher.
Ooh.
And so you can fold it in half. And it's folded in half, but that's what it was.
Did you have to lug it around?
Yeah, you lug that around. I didn't lug it much. I only had a little bit when we were up at the rock pile. I had it... we had some poor fella ran in some brush over there, and they said, take that and shoot one in there. We shot a Willie Peter in there, some white phosphorus, and he come running right back out of there.
Oh, dear. Well, that's nice.
He did not have a good day.
It's nice to see that you are featured here so you can tell us about it.
The bad thing, I said, most of the people, I said, that have served, I said, are gone.
Yeah.
We've lost a generation. In World War II are gone. Korea is almost gone.
Yeah.
I says, nobody talks to these people. It's a forgotten war. I says, over 2/3 of Vietnam veterans are gone. How many people serve in Desert Storm, or very few of them, I says, are active.
Yeah.
It takes 2 people working to try to make a family living.
Yeah.
You know, they're too busy to join, to help, to do things, belong to some communities. That's why we tell young people, I said, try to be involved, volunteer, do things to help your community and be part of something. You don't have to have it just for me. Help someone else.
Right.
I said, that is getting forgotten in our family.
That's an important lesson, I guess.
Yes.
So here we've got some veterans, too. We've got
Excuse me.
Adelbert Bouch, and he was killed, wasn't he?
Yes. Yeah. These 3 men were we had the VFW post 10671, and we were the Cuckett Bouch, post here, and Johnson. Johnson was a Vietnam veteran, and he got killed in practice. Oh. And he's listed on the wall. He is on the wall. And Cuckett was in Korea, and Bouch was in World War II. But we started a VFW post here one time in Arcadia, and they just couldn't generate enough help, enough membership, so it kind of dried up. Then we had another post going, and it was here for about 25 years. I was quartermaster for over 20. And I said, it ended up, we didn't have enough members to even fill the positions on the post. So it ended up, we disbanded the post, and most of the men joined either Cochrane Fountain City or they joined Trempealeau. Okay. We did have an active post, but when people all pass on, you can't keep up.
No, that's.
And around the corner here, we have a couple more veteran pieces I'd like to talk about here a little bit, as long as we're right here.
Oh, okay.
This on the top here, Guile Herrick. You remember the old Mashur store?
Right.
In Arcadia, Guile was with the National Guard, served in the Second World War. And Guile was, like I said, another community leader. He says, step forward, and I says, whenever you needed help, you weren't afraid to ask Guile, because we'll squeeze it in somehow. We'll get it done somehow. And we had other people that also did the same, Joe Gamoki used to run the gas station. He said, we got a barbecue chicken for the PPP project. They said, what's that? Polish poverty people, he'd always say. but they always stepped up and they'd always help. And here I said, this is some memorabilia from Jack Haynes, or from Ralph Haynes.
Yeah.
And I said, we had talked about Ralph here a little bit earlier. But I said, this is some of his awards and some of the things here from Ralph. Like I said, he flew planes and whatever else,
What is this?
This is a button collection with different uniforms. That's another story. We've got more buttons around here than you shake a stick at. But there's another story.
Okay.
But on the bottom here is Russell Severson. Here's a thing about Russell.
Okay.
Russell seen the flag raising on Iwo Jima. I said he was on there when Jerry Zimi, the corpsman who treated himself, when Zimi was there. And Russell got wounded taking the 2nd Airfield. And Russell and I were charter members to start the Wisconsin 3rd Marine Division here in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin chapter out of Milwaukee. So I said there's only about 6 or 8 of us charter members left.
Yeah.
And Russell, being as active as he was with the community, especially the Legion and the VFW, you go to St. Stan Cemetery, there's a flagpole there, and that flagpole was put up for Russell.
Oh, well, that's...
And he and Virgie raised their own flag.
Yeah. And what is this? It looks like, what is this big knife here? Do you know?
At one time, you could use any weapon you wanted in war. And I said they would come out with big bayonets and different things. And some of them would be extremely serrated on the top. And if you stabbed someone, it kind of tore everything back out.
Nasty.
Yes. The Geneva Convention came in and started outlawing a lot of stuff. And some of this memorabilia could have been brought in from someplace like that. Yeah. It wasn't a good thing. But I says, we do not have any weapons on display or anything as far as guns or stuff like that, But I says, Russell, I said, when he was in Iwo Jima, I says, he met a few men there that he had met later in life. When he seen that flag raising, the last survivor from the 6 men, the original 6 men, was up in Minneapolis. And when he passed away, all the guys from the 3rd Marine Division got to sit in the front row in church. And Russell being Russell, he sat up there and he said, oh, you should have been there. He was telling the story. He says, and there was all these Marines there. He drove out to Fort Snelling. He says, there was motorcycles along with U.S. flags, And I said, well, did you take any pictures? Well, no. I said, typical Russell, No, never took a picture. But he's seen it. I was there. He's seen it,
Now, we don't have a picture of Hank Gamroth from Independence.
No, I don't believe we do.
But why was he important here?
Well, if you go on TV right now, I think on YouTube channel or a few places like that, and type in Desmond Doss. Desmond Doss was a corpsman, and he was a conscientious objector during the Second World War. And on Iwo Jima, I says, he saved over 75 men. And one of the men he saved was...
Hank Gamroth, yeah.
From Independence.
Yeah, and that was a Clint Eastwood movie. Hacksaw Ridge, I think.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah.
So I says, we do have a little tied to national fame indirectly around here, I says, but we should dig a little bit history out on him and make a little display about that.
Yeah, he was...
I think that should be listed in our museum. Since Independence Museum isn't overly active, maybe we'll have to step in there and see if we can put a little history together about Henry.
He was a town policeman for many, many years, I remember people telling me. Yeah, and very well respected and very well liked.
I don't remember him pulling me over, so...
So do we have any others here?
No, I think that's about as far as we're going to probably go here for today.
Well, that's pretty amazing.
One thing, though, I said, well, we should talk about I believe, is the Freedom Flight, the Freedom Honor Flight.
Oh, yes, and that's right here. You talked about the Freedom
someplace
Flight.
I have information here, and I said, well,
Yep.
I'll make sure that you get a copy of it.
Yeah.
The Freedom Honor Flight, it flies out of La Crosse. And if you're a veteran and served, especially with World War II, if there's one left, or Korea, there's an application you get online. If you can't find it, have your relation dig on a computer. Because I'm not totally illiterate on a computer, but I'm not the best. But anyhow, if you can get that application filled out, submit it to La Crosse. It does not cost you anything as a veteran to get an honor flight to Washington, D.C. I went on the flight, and it's well worth your time. It's one day, you got to be in La Crosse early, like before 5 or 6 in the morning, and you'll come back around 9 or 10 at night.
Yeah.
But it's a fun-filled day that you will remember. You also can be a guardian. You can have your family member be a guardian, but it cannot be your wife. I guess there was a little bit conflict where the wife wanted to go left and the husband wanted to go right, so they said, from now on, we're not having that no more. We're going to have it. I said, you can have your son or daughter be your guardian. Your wife can be your guardian, I believe, if you would be on medication or you have to be prescribed some type of personal care, she can help you. But I said, the honor flight there is supported solely by donations. So I said, Quick Trip has been a big sponsor. I said, now I'm not going to say who is sponsoring now because I'm not positive. But the local Legion Club, I said, the VFW when we were active, we used to send them $500-600. The original flights going to D.C. were only around $50,000. Now they're about $125,000.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
So it costs a few dollars to take these men. There's about 100 men on the flight, a little bit better maybe. And 1/3 of those people who are added to that will be guardians. There's a few doctors and a few paramedics on flight.
Well, I would imagine.
Because some of these people are wheelchair bound or there is some infirmities there that are involved. And for medical emergencies, the personnel is on hand. The doctors and the guardians pay their own way. That costs them $500 to get on that flight. And these people step forward and they do it.
So when you get to Washington, then where? Where do you go?
All over town. We had an African-American fellow that was our bus driver, and he said he drove for 3 presidential ceremonies already through D.C. I mean, he knew his way around town. The most likable fella, I said, full of information. He said, this is where they print the money, this is where they spend the money. I mean, he knew where he was, what he was talking about. But I said, we got there, the first place we went to see the Air Force Memorial. Just superior place, I says, and everything was well planned. We had a big send-off from La Crosse. You had a big welcome when you got to Washington, D.C., band and people you wouldn't believe in the airport to meet you there, lead you to the buses. We went to the Air Force thing. It rained the whole day and we still had a great time.
Yeah.
The Air Force one, they brought us some lunch, and then typical fashion, forgot the key, but they did bring the key and they got it open. We all got a sandwich out of the deal. Then I said we were at Arlington. We seen Arlington. We seen the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown, the World War II Memorial, the Wisconsin Memorial. I says a reflection pool, the Lincoln Memorial, the Vietnam Wall, Korean Wall. The Pentagon we went where the plane crashed, you could see where the building's been repaired, and it was just a tremendous day. I said, you cannot believe the stuff you see and the places you've been, and the good thing is you didn't have to drive, because you'd have to be almost bonkers, I think, to drive. You're looking and look this far out the window and a car goes by, and traffic both ways, but I says it was well worth the trip, and you were with other veterans who understood what was going on, and the camaraderie was well worth the trip. And I said, we had an excellent guide. My guardian was right up from Whitehall, so I said, we were in good shape. I says, all local people, mostly on the flight. So, I was with a guy from Independence as my partner. So I said, we had a tremendous day, but if anybody has a chance to go on a Freedom Flight, fill out the forms. I'll give Nancy the papers here, and we can get the website printed up here for the TV to put them on there for an extra minute or two. And I said, try to apply, get in there and go. And if you had a grandfather or uncle yet or somebody that didn't go, twist their arm a little bit. And they only get off 1 or 2 flights. As soon as they have enough money, they try to get them off. And I believe they had 2 flights this year. So I said, it's good if you get the chance to go.
Yeah, my parents were both in the Army Air Corps during World War II, and I never could convince them to do it. And my mother especially, well, she said, well, I was just a nurse. Well, you know.
We've had that happen for Memorial Day. We'll pick one grave, and we'll place the wreath there in honor of all the veterans. Well, the guy says to me, well, my father was just a mechanic. I said, it's irrelevant. I said, not for that mechanic, we'd been walking. Not for that cook, we went to ate. Not for that office pogue over there, you went to came home. I said, every job was important. I said, there is no just as. I says, everyone was important because he wouldn't have done his job, somebody else could have died.
That's right.
So it's important, I says, that the camaraderie you build in service is for a lifetime. You just don't lose it because you hung up your uniform.
Right. So
we also display here during Memorial Day here at the museum. We have maybe about 25, 30 uniforms we bring out here from all the different services. I said we post them out, and we try to change the displays ever so often to update them. I said to keep them a little bit more intact in time and intact. So, but we're a non-profit organization here. I said people come in, they give us a donation once in a while, and so far, we're keeping the lights on. Good. So it's good, I said, to go. And one day Nancy's going to maybe come and film the museum, but that's another program.
That's another program. This is getting to be Jim's signature statement. That's another program. So I guess we got plenty of things we can talk about in the future.
Well, I always run out of things to talk about. I find something that's windy.
Anyway, I want to thank Jim for taking the time to meet us here and to put up this wonderful display. And we also want to give a big thank you to all of our veterans. Thank you so much for your service, and it was much appreciated.
Yeah, if there's a Veterans Day program this year, make sure you go. Memorial Day, go to that.
Yeah.
Remember those people.